Welcome, everyone, to Manifesting with Meg, conversations with extraordinary people. And do I have a wonderful interview for all of you today? This is my opportunity to talk to positive psychologist and teacher, Bianca Laureano-Aguirre, and she's going to share with us a boost of wonderful energy today. Welcome to the show, Bianca.
Thank you.
Today is the continuation of our Live, Laugh, Love, and Play. And like I said, this is our special guest, Bianca Laureano-Aguirre. This is episode 135, Find the Happy Ones and Enjoy the Trip, which I truly intend to do today. I'm always a conversation away from a universe packed with possibility and, of course, extraordinary. Introducing to all of you, Bianca. She's a teacher, learner, and speaker. She's a teacher of high school English and positive psychology in the Bay Area, where she lives with her husband, Ray. So I'm sure he is a giddy, positive person as well, because influenced by your happiness cluster, I'm sure that you guys are like, boom, bringing the energy. She cares about wellness, which is why she recently worked up the courage to give a TEDx talk, bravo, on how to move from merely surviving to thriving and inspiring in the world of education, which, as we all know, we could all use a lot more of that, especially as the new school year begins. Her love of learning led her to pursue a master's in happiness studies with Dr. Tal Ben-Shahar, a degree she's currently working on with me. We're actually in class together, and we're starting off our next year in the program. It's been wonderful. Right? And I love the quote, "What a strange trip it's been," Jerry Garcia. And, as we all know, Grateful Dead American musician. One of the things I want to point out with regard to this particular insight per se is that, the more that we look for our happiness clusters, we seek what we find. And in this particular instance, and wouldn't it be better to invite people to show you a different way of looking at the world, especially if you're in a particular funk? So if you're in a funk, like you're experiencing this, like, utter stuck, I can't get out of it, wouldn't it be smart to look up from your doom and gloom, looking into the world, finding those people that you are looking at, thinking, like, my God, what are they drinking? Or what are they eating? Or where are they hanging out? And all of the above. So, when you find the happy ones, wherever you are on this long, strange trip, it's contagious. Tell us about that. Tell us your perspective on all of this.
Yeah, I mean, emotional contagion, right? It just teaches us that smiles and laughter and positivity, or really any emotion, right, is contagious. But I think the positive ones, right, can multiply and upward spiral us to just a bliss, right? Like that magical guide that you've provided us with.
I wanted to ask you with regard, like, the whole concept of wherever you go, there you are, right? This whole
Mhm.
idea of positive psychology, and the whole idea is that instead of dwelling on the things of your past that you're not so proud of, getting around this mindset of gratitude, so you can at least kind of reframe and
Mhm.
then prime for the future with these, like, kind of symbols. How do you do that, especially when you're starting to get ready for the school year? Like, I'm wondering.
Like intentional that my intention for today is about being in the moment because I don't want to think about starting work tomorrow. Very much trying to be in the present. So mindfulness helps a lot.
Yeah.
Um, I'd also say um, just I think looking towards optimism. I think Martin Seligman's kind of work on optimism and thinking about, I used to be. It's nice actually that I can say that in the past tense that I used to be. Sometimes I fall into the trap, but a downward spiral thinker, right, or catastrophizer in my way of thinking. But like if we spend that much time catastrophizing, like why not spend just as much time or more time thinking about all of the things that could go right or all of the things that, could go well. So I think that was huge and kind of my mindset shift. And really, really meditating for the last number of years, just trying to stay in the present has been huge, right? I love singing. Always have, really. Like my great grandma used to tell a story about how she'd take me walking around in their neighborhood. I'm guessing I was about 4 at the time. They used to babysit me, and I'd just be singing at the top of my lungs, and everybody'd be laughing and smiling at me. So I think that's really the earliest memory I guess I have of singing. I joined a choir in fourth, or like my school choir in fourth grade, and then I've been in a group singing, or had been through grad school. So every year in at least one group singing. I think it really, before I was introduced to meditation and mindfulness, was the place where I could let go of past and future
Yeah,
and was fully in the present, just in you know, in what Mihaly Csikszentmihalyi calls flow, right? So just
yeah, wow.
engaging, and I think the beautiful thing about singing too, is that at least in my experience, it was mostly through with other people. So the connection that you can have with other people while you're singing, especially a cappella. You mentioned like there's no instruments, it's just kind of you and you know the people around you, that you're so in sync, right? You're so there for one another, supporting one another through the music. And it's just a magical experience. It's close to, I don't know that there's anything close to that experience. So
So
yeah, even if you don't know how to sing or you feel like you're not a great singer, like singing is magical. Even
exciting with all these other very talented voices that come together. I find it so amazing. So, like, talk about your journey. I mean, like, I don't know if I've ever heard it said that a teacher a teacher in high school teaches positive psychology to their students. Is it a special school or is it just the program that you're involved in? Tell me a little bit about your journey to get there. Get there.
Yeah. So I'm super grateful to be in I'm in a public high school in the Bay Area. So I'm really fortunate to have a class of positive psychology. It's 10th, 11th, and 12th graders. Actually, just this upcoming year, we've kind of renamed the class to have more students like know what that means. So this year will be the first year. It's a happiness studies class. So I'm excited about that kind of rebranding at our school. I also think it'll open it up to hopefully some really exciting new possibilities. Um, but yeah, it's not as common as even I had imagined when I was attending. I attended the International Positive Psychology Association Congress in Vancouver in July 2023, and was talking to a bunch of people, and they were surprised, right, that I had this opportunity. So it all began. I think it's probably been 8 years now that one of my colleagues she started the class, and we were really lucky to have the principal's support. She kind of stole or adapted curriculum from another teacher, just a local school in Palo Alto. And that particular teacher, Ronnie Habib, started positive psychology at Gunn after losing one of his students to suicide.
Oh, wow.
There's a lot of it's been a while, thankfully, but there's a number of suicide clusters in Palo Alto.
Mm.
And so that's kind of where it started there. And we were really fortunate to get to know him. He created EQ Schools, which is a wonderful organization. So I've been to a number of conferences that he's put on, just learned a ton from him. And that's kind of where that came from. I think I learned actually just this year, maybe last year, that Ronnie actually was in one of Tall's classes at Harvard back in the day when he taught. So it kind of goes back to that strangely.
Interestingly enough, so you studied that in Stanford with as a part of your education or
Not
master's
so
or
much actually. I think I took like 2 classes that were related, but, I actually went to Stanford to study English. I was really inspired by my junior year English teacher. I was like, I could totally see what she's doing. I could see myself, you know, being her. Just she was so full of life, and I loved that in the classroom. She wasn't afraid to admit, like, when she didn't know things, like how to spell words, and I was like, "Cool, like, I don't have to be perfect to be a teacher." And so I studied English actually at Stanford. I took my first happiness class was with Donovan Yisrael at Stanford, and I think that was big in leading me down this journey. And I took one class in emotional intelligence, but it was really like at my high school where I teach. And through EQ schools. And I was also taught mindfulness meditation from Dr. Amy Saltzman. I was fortunate to have our principal bring her in for professional development. So a small group of us kind of went through that training. And a lot of it I've just kind of learned through professional development. Really, I'm grateful for Coursera. I've taken a lot of classes through them, including ones with Martin Seligman and other professors at UPenn. Dr. Laurie Santos's class,
yeah,
The Science of Wellbeing
yeah.
for Teens, was huge. And now just being in this master's program, I haven't really been able to get enough of it. I just keep learning like every day, every year. Yeah.
So what's the feedback that you get from people when you tell everyone that you're doing a master's in happiness studies? I'm just curious. I mean, I'm like, what? Like, are you kidding me? Are you serious? Like, that's what I get,
Yeah.
and or other people are like, well, what's that?
Yeah.
I mean, how about for
It's
you?
been mixed. It depends on the person. I've had some people kind of, joke it off like, "Oh, you must be happy all the time." And that's a little annoying if I'm being honest, but it is also an opportunity for me to help them learn like what it
Right.
really is about. Um I will say I have had some positive responses. I've had some people be like, "Oh my gosh, like that sounds amazing. Like tell me more." And I've sent some people the link, the information.
Definitely want to go to the point where you did your TED talk. You happened upon this in a very different way.
Yeah,
This is for your students, is that right?
that's right.
Tell
Yeah.
me a little bit about your journey around it.
Yeah. So at our school, it's been for a number of years, maybe at least five, maybe six or seven. There's been a student group, like it's basically a club that puts on a TEDx event every year or nearly every year. I think with the pandemic, we maybe missed one or two. I had some students ask me maybe a year or two before I actually did it. And I was like, yeah, that sounds like something I'd be really interested in. And when the time came, I was like, I do not have time for this. And so it had kind of been percolating, in my mind for a year or so before I finally gave it this past March. But it was really being in this master's program, which is ironic because I have less time this year than any other year. I'm like still working full time, earning a master's. But I've learned actually through this program and through some of the people in our cohort that I had this limiting belief about time. It was that I didn't have enough of it. And, Tall talks to us about the relationship that we have with time, especially in the West, the idea that we're killing it or wasting it. And it was really, really, honestly, life changing, just perspective changing in the way that I approach, honestly, living. And I realized that I could create the space, even though time was a limited resource. I could create the space and make the choice to focus on what mattered to me. I also think letting go of some perfectionism made a huge difference. So just embracing optimalism. I read Tall's book on the pursuit of perfect. I'm blanking on the title now, but and I think that helped. So just being able to do good enough in the areas that were most important to me. I was able to find time. I made or make space. Like you can't create time, but I prioritized it. And so it was exciting. Go ahead.
For everyone in the podcast world, I have a slide of Bianca at the TEDx, uh, LAHS, and with the big word on the back, inspire.
Yes.
And somehow, um, I believe, I'm going to assume this because I do believe that this is your superpower. And I think that it's so amazing that you are in front of the generation that you're in front of right now, because I think that in light of some of the doom and gloom they could experience and perhaps the less social networks in person, the
Mhm.
matter of fact that they have you in person with this kind of theme running through your life, inspire,
Mm.
that you can, in fact, uplift so many. So, back to you with regard to this. Tell us how this whole talk came about.
So yeah, I I don't know. I really wanted to get the message out in our school and in the greater world of education that we're not doing good enough right now. Our kids are really struggling. My colleagues, are struggling. It's been a difficult time, especially coming back from the pandemic and thinking that we'd learned to slow down and then coming back and realizing like we weren't actually going to follow through with any of the changes positively that we had learned. And so that was
And yeah,
it was challenging. And so for me, I wanted I wanted students at our school to try and create a culture shift, honestly, that success is not what leads to happiness. Happiness is what leads to
mm,
success.
yeah,
And so I think that was really at the root of it, at the core of it. I talk in In my TED Talk, I talk about how, students are, at least where I'm at, it's a very competitive, world in the Silicon Valley. They're motivated by grades. So, it's prioritizing grades over learning, extracurriculars that look good, right, over things that they enjoy, and worrying over living. And of course, that's a generalization. Like some students have found their way towards, you know, happiness leading to
Yeah.
success, but it's a constant struggle. And so that was kind of at the root of it. Inspire is I talk about in the opening of my TED Talk. It's the word that I wrote about in my application to Stanford. It
I love it.
was my favorite word then, and it kind of reappeared in my life when Tal introduced us to the SPIRE model.
So I'm going to show
And
everybody also in this particular, because you also added this wonderful slide.
yes,
Inspire, I need spire. And
yeah,
it's on the back, obviously, in a PowerPoint. Tell us about this and how you wove it in the
yeah.
meat of the talk.
Yeah, so this idea, it came to me in the shower actually, where I tend to have
Where
most of
everything
my
good
great
happens, right?
ideas. And that's because we give ourselves space, right? We're not bombarded, we're not overstimulated. So it was just I was playing with inspire and spire and what spire means and how to kind of create inspire as an acronym, and I need spire was I thought of it and I was like, this is the end, right, of my talk. It was lovely. I was really grateful that when I asked Tal if I could, use his spire model in my talk, he was like, of course, please, like, please share this with people.
Yeah.
And so it kind of, yeah, getting his permission kind of brought all of this.
Two wonderful quotes that you provide. Inspiration is very important for me. I do these conversations to be inspired myself.
Yeah.
And your first quote that you share is, you won't find happiness by foregoing happiness. Don't starve yourself. Your odds of success will increase if you eat.
Yeah.
Arthur C. Brooks. Tell me why you chose this quote.
So this is at the end of an article he wrote, and I was just like, "Oh, yes!" Like I love food. Food brings me such great joy, and so that metaphor at the end, I was like, "This is I need to live by this."
Yeah.
But really, I think this is right in line with what I was just talking about. That like we tend to think, success will lead to happiness, and it's happiness that leads to success. And so when we tend to put off our happiness thinking, okay, I have to do this first and then this and this and this. And then once I do these things or once I have these things, then I'll be happy.
Yeah.
And I just love that this metaphor like really makes it like stupid clear. Like you need to eat in order to survive. And
Yeah.
it's like we need to be happy in order to thrive. Why would we prolong that? Why would we put that off?
Yeah. That's
Um,
that's so profound in so many ways. And I think at the end of the day, we're always striving. And I think this is what you said, we're striving so much for this. I guess it's kind of nebulous, this kind of notion of, when I get there, I can allow myself to just kick it up with the joy. And like
mhm,
we all say, I mean, it's like one of the most basic, it's happiness is the journey, not the destination. And I think in many ways, a lot of people forget that, and they seem to externalize the joy rather than
mhm,
internalizing the joy, which for me is my biggest, like, it's my kryptonite. When I start disease to please, external need
mhm.
for approval, I turn into some, crazy, bad, crazy. Like, it gets there for me. I'm just like, okay, this is not working for me.
Yeah.
And then I wonder why, I spiral down instead of the opposite. So when I look for inspiration, certainly I always grab onto the ones that I know will give it to me. Then we
Mhm,
see these quotes, like this
mhm,
beautiful one: he who asks a question is a fool for 5 minutes. He who does not ask a question remains a fool forever. Now, like, drop that knowledge with your students, right? Like, I mean, if this is the who you show up to as in the teaching realm, your
mhm.
kids are going to be so benefited by you. So tell me a little bit why this was chosen.
Yeah, so this quote lives on my classroom wall. It has, I think, since I started teaching. I just moved into a portable. My husband helped me put my room together yesterday. So I put this quote up again. I actually put it right next to the clock, which is the thing they probably look at the most in the classroom.
That's okay.
Um, but I tell them, that, I believe I've gotten to where I've gotten in life. I've gotten the opportunities that I've had. I've, been successful because I'm not afraid to ask for what I need, right? I'm not afraid to ask for the things that will help me, do what I need and want to do. And helping them realize this is challenging.
Yeah.
But I talk about it explicitly. Like, we tend to think of asking questions as a weakness, and I try to tell them and show them, right? Like, it's a strength. And so for me, this is huge. And I love that this proverb really normalizes the fact that it might feel icky, you might feel like a fool um for a moment or two, but you remain the fool forever if you never ask.
And I also thought of this. If you don't ask the question, then you'll always stay in the question
Yeah.
and you'll never find the solution or the
Mhm.
answers that you're looking for or the answers that you already have. So you might as well
Absolutely.
ask it so you can move on to the next one. That's what I
Yeah,
always say. Like,
yeah,
don't hold on to these things that can literally help you rather than
yeah,
just let it out there and maybe someone else has a better way of looking at it perspective wise.
absolutely.
I
You
love
can't
that.
you can't start the quest, right, without asking the
You
question.
Isn't that the truth, right? You can't begin the quest. I love that. Life is too short to be in a hurry. Henry David Thoreau. Drop some knowledge. I love the picture too. Is this you, by the way?
Oh,
Seriously?
no.
Okay. Well, it's like 2 feet standing in this like beautiful grassy, like leaf, colorful story. So anyway, go ahead. Tell us what this means to you.
Yeah, I think this, kinda goes back to just how my perspective on time has shifted a lot this year. It like, it's true, it is too short to be in a hurry, and so how can we create the conditions to slow down and enjoy, every day? Like, I think sometimes we get so busy that we forget, like,
It's true.
hello, like, the purpose of being here,
Yeah.
um, and
Yeah.
I we just go through the motions, and so, it's a beautiful reminder just to slow down,
Love
and to really savor all that life has to offer.
the
Yeah.
savoring is such a powerful um, component when you think about your life as a whole. When are those, and even if you're like sitting in the time now, maybe beginning of something, a school year, beginning of something,
Mhm,
another year of school or another project or something like that. If you sit in the moment and you actually think about how you got here, you know, and from where when you were that person, starting off college or starting off anything, you
mhm,
wished for this. If you don't sit there and savor the
mhm,
experience you're in, then what is all of that wishing all about? You're
mhm.
actually got the gift of the action, right? And then I
Absolutely.
love it. If you just take a moment and just be in real appreciation. Ah, I love it.
Yeah,
Yes.
and that's why happiness, right, isn't a destination because you'll never get there if it's always in the future,
Oh,
right?
I love that for sure.
Yeah.
And then, of course, the invariable mark of wisdom is to see the miraculous in the common. Ralph Waldo Emerson. She's dropping the greats right now for all of us. Thank you. Go for it.
I think this is one that you reminded me of this year, Meg, in one of our webinars. And it really clarifies like how we do like looking at the ordinary and finding the extraordinary, right? Um, I don't know. I think actually back to, my great grandparents, and how like every day with them, even if we were doing absolutely nothing, it was miraculous, it was beautiful, it was extraordinary.
Yeah.
And so like how can I try and live this way, every day, each moment? That's so wise, right? Like
I mean,
I want to look back on my life and think that every day got to be like this. Yeah.
That's so cool. And for me, like, when I get these reminders in my own life, it's kind of like, yeah, this legacy building. Well, when you look back at it, you're like, oh, did you see that? And my friends used to say to me, there's got to be something you can like mark it around that you're never going to believe what just happened to me. Like, you'll never believe what's just going to happen or what happened or what about to happen or, because you're always kind of experiencing that miraculous moment. I love it.
Mhm.
And then I had to keep this one as well because I love it. Take rest. A field that is rested gives a bountiful crop. Okay. This is perfect. It's perfect.
I love that you kept all 5. I think that shows who I am. I struggle with narrowing less is more. I'm working on it. Also, for me, though, just shows the power of words, right? It's why I
Yeah,
became an English teacher.
yeah,
This quote, I think, came from a calm meditation that I did
yeah,
that really like worked to kind of change my perspective on like rest being just as important as work, and finding that balance, right? The fact that like stress is not a problem, it's our lack of recovery, right? And that we need time, and that's useful time, that's not wasted
yeah,
time or laziness.
yeah,
And I just love that this quote like brings us back to nature, and reminds us that that's how the natural world works. That's
yeah,
what, is at the core of it, at the root of it. Um,
yeah.
so just
Well, for those in
resting
the
and being
podcast world,
beautiful.
it's a beautiful picture of a field that looks like it's just incredibly alight and
Mhm,
of with colors, and there's a forest on one side, you see the sky and all of nature coming alive to this experience. I just think it's really, really poignant, and even more so when you see the picture behind it. It's really quite
mhm.
beautiful. And how do you relate this back to your life now at this stage?
Yeah, so I think, I'm enjoying rest more. This past year, I think, was one of the first that during breaks, during the school year, if we
Mm,
had like a long weekend, I actually met up with my family's in Southern California, and we'd meet them halfway. I did that a couple times this year, whereas
mm,
ordinarily I'd just be like, oh, I don't have time for that. I have too much work
yeah,
to do.
yeah,
And it's just so energizing. And so, once I realized that, it's you want to keep doing it. You want to keep giving yourself that time.
yeah.
And it's just a matter of finding like what rest like really works for you, what recharges your batteries. And so sometimes
I,
it's different things, but I try to give myself a balance, I think, of the type of rest and recharge that I need. And I'm a lot happier.
yeah.
Yeah.
Well, I heard it long ago said that that kind of the goal in life is to be able to sit with yourself.
Mm,
And a lot of people are kind of like running away from their their self, like for
mm,
whatever reason. Like you said, you found this from a Calm app. Well,
mhm,
to actually listen on the Calm app, you have to sit there, put whatever in your ears, and then just be there with yourself
mhm.
and try to embrace that, and without the whole distractions of other things, so
Yeah.
that you can come inside. Like you said, I think I know this is like those moments when you're in a shower and the water is washing over you, and those ideas they come. I find water very, very inspirational when it comes to what it brings to me, and I think that that comes from a place of that calmness that you're talking about. What has been the moment of profound experiences that you've had that led you on this particular path?
Oh, that's such a big question. I mean, I think being introduced to the world of positive psychology has been incredibly life-changing. Actually, I think I say that in my TED Talk, and I don't say it lightly now. It's been a huge catalyst, I think,
Yeah,
being in this master's program. Um, Studying happiness studies has also been huge. I've been saying I've wanted to write a book, since I was young. I always imagined myself as a writer or an author, and finally doing it. Like on top of everything else, again, the irony, like I have less time, I guess, objectively, but I've got 25,000 words written, and um has maybe even more so, that was maybe my introduction to the world, has been maybe the biggest, maybe the most profound, really. It's just breathing, learning how to breathe,
oh my
right?
God, I love that. So I always ask my guests to set their intention, and one of the things I
Mhm,
love to do is because we play with the magical guide to bliss, and I'm so grateful I can share it with so many people because it literally was the guide that took me out of a place that was very dark into a light. And
mhm.
whenever I realize that I'm not necessarily in the light, I try to go back to it because maybe it'll bring me something again. So my intention is just to really be in this moment with you. What is your intention today, and what number did you pick in the magical guide to share with us?
Like, was that the same? It was living in
Ah,
the moment,
oh,
which
that's
is,
great.
275.
Oh, that's great. And what about that passage speaks to you? You don't have to read the whole thing, but just what like
Yeah, I
things.
mean, first of all, Walt Whitman's the quote, and
There you
I
go.
love him. Just happiness not in another place, but this place, not for another hour, but this hour. I just love the idea that, we tend to multitask a lot in this world, but,
Yeah.
beauty and happiness is found in the now.
Yeah.
And so for me today, it's living that moment, appreciating, like, as you say, the little synchronicities
Yeah.
that bring happiness to light your life. And I love the idea of light. I love sunlight. I just wanted to be here in the moment with you today. And I want to be here in the moment all day today, not thinking about starting work.
No. Show is about live, love, and laugh and play. How are you doing that, or how will you do that, or how you intend to do that? Bring more to play to everything that you do. I mean, I know you're incredibly accomplished. You are incredibly smart. You bring a lot of insight that other people might not have experienced. So I love that you do share that. But I think with that, you have to live, laugh, love, and play, and I think that to keep that spark or that light going, you have to engage the playful side. So tell me, how are you doing that in your life right now?
Your play. I'm actually going to Tipsy Putt to mini golf with my book club today. So that's today's play.
That's
I love
awesome.
getting out and going on walks and just being playful on those, with my husband. I'm playing a lot in my writing these days. Like
That's great.
I have been having a lot of fun actually. I have a my colleague actually that started the positive psychology class at our school. Is a dear friend now, and we've been workshopping buddies this summer. So we're enjoying playing and giving feedback. So it's happening in that world. Yeah, it's
Oh, that's
it's
awesome.
enjoying every moment.
And a lot of my audience members always looking for tools that they can use to manifest a more extraordinary life. I do believe that we all learn tools over time, and I always like to ask, what are those tools that help you manifest the life of your dreams?
Yeah. I mean, everyone's strengths are different. For me, I think, what's led me to the profound in my life is my love of learning.
Yeah,
It's zest, it's perseverance, but, so cool, do some thinking on your own strengths and, cultivate those. I also think, just a very practical one, meditating or, just taking 3 deep breaths to start
yeah,
your morning or when at a stoplight, 3 deep breaths and 3 things that you're grateful for. I've seen so many more trees driving to work when I do that.
well, that's awesome.
Um, and then I'd say, each day, when I go on the computer and I open a new tab, I use the momentum extension and it gives a like, what do you want to do today? Like, what is your goal for today? And mine is to breathe and enjoy the day. And so just to remind yourself, right, to do both of those things,
Love it.
I
That's
think is
great.
huge.
So one of the things I'm working on right now is gratitude of the past, remembering where you were on January 1st, 2024.
Mm,
Fast forwarding to how you want to feel on January 1st, 2025.
mm,
So tell me one thing over this last year that you hoped for,
mm.
and then tell me one thing for the rest of the year that you act as if it will happen.
Ugh, I love that. I just love how you phrased it too, right? The feelings are motivating. So like let's for me, I think in January I was like, I'm doing this TED Talk. And I did it in March. And right now it's like, ooh, January 2020, I guess 5. No, we're
2025.
in
Yeah.
24 already. I think a draft of my book. That's
Very
where I wanna be, I think, and I'll be close to graduating with you as well.
Yes, that's true too. A lot of wonderful things are going to be happening in
Mm,
this year coming up. And I do appreciate the fact that you are encouraging many to focus on their strengths, because I do believe that sometimes when we're looking too much at our what we perceive to be weaknesses, we
mm,
forget the magic that we already have, which will in fact spiral us all up rather than the opposite, right? Going
yep.
up, I'm going up, I'm going up, I'm not going down. So anyway, with that, I do feel like right now, I've kind of adopted the whole notion of activating hope through
Mm.
action as what they're just doing in I think the hope circuit, that's the theme this year. Um, what is one thing that you hope for on a grander scale?
I just hope that we can like listen and love more. I hope, on the large scale of education, which is the world I'm in and really
Yeah,
passionate about, I hope that we can teach wholeness and whole being,
it's
and just
beautiful.
teach people how to be well. Yeah,
Beautiful.
happy and
And
well.
what is that bit of inspiration? They always say, I may not pass this way again. So
Mhm,
whatever kindness I can leave is my gift to whoever's listening. So
mhm.
with that, what final inspiration do you want to share with all of us?
I think it's just that to believe that you can inspire others. I think in the theme of connection, right, for today and this month, um, just knowing that like how you present yourself in the world does make a difference, and so live your best life and inspire others to do so too.
Amazing. What a long, strange trip it's been. And I'm certain that the rest of our journeys on this wonderful planet Earth are going to be as equally strange because God only knows what wonderful technology advances or advancements. But yeah, if you find the happiness, the happier people along the way, it makes it so much better. How can people get in touch with you if they wanted to speak more about this or maybe engage the EQ studies in their schools? Because it seems like something that would be so good for the student to
Yeah.
inspire them and to look at the world and their futures differently.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, I'm Bianca Laureano-Aguirre on LinkedIn. You can find me B Aguirre, so just my maiden name, B Aguirre at alumni.stanford.edu. Those are both great places.
It's been an incredibly inspiring conversation. What you've done in this world and what you're doing, I just can't tell you how much I'm a huge fan and supporter of you. I want to thank you for coming, and also I want to say, what is like literally, what is your message that you want us all to take away now, outside of the inspiration? That when we think of Bianca, what do we want to remember about today?
Just breathe and enjoy the day.
Okay, everybody. So breathe and enjoy the day. Thank you so much, Bianca, for this wonderful opportunity to have this conversation with you. I can't wait to see what those 25,000 words turns into. I'm sure you have a title waiting for to be shared. But
Yeah.
certainly in the space of positive psychology and happiness studies, I'm happy to play in that playground with you. And when we all do graduate and share out with the world, who knows what magic we can do, the miraculous, certainly. And I'm going to put this one last time, just for everyone's reminder, you won't find happiness by foregoing happiness. So don't starve yourself of that when it's literally free. What's next for you?
Yeah, I mean, so you mentioned title. Like the working title is what I've learned from the greats. So that's the book I'm working on right now. Um, that's the current thing. Graduating with this master's.
So
Maybe a
much.
PhD in the future. Trying to teach teachers to teach students how to live the good life.
Oh, I love it. And you're, like I said before, your students are going to be very blessed by you for sure. So with that, keep your eyes open for Bianca and the magic she brings into the world. And remember, it's always time to manifest fully, love intently, and laugh more, and certainly find ways to play. Get ready to dazzle everyone. I really believe in all of you, and I'll see you around on the next interview. Thank you so much,
Thank
Bianca. Have
you,
a
Meg.
wonderful day. All right.
Oh,
Bye,
thank you.
everybody.